Dr. Pawan Duggal, welcome and good evening. Mahakumbh, it's a occasion to celebrate for the world, not only for India. Amrit Kal series, I welcome Dr. Pawan Duggal, an authority. Any kind of adjectives do not suffice to the kind of prowess and knowledge that he brings on the table. On the subjects of cyber, on the subjects of counterfeit IP, a man who's represented India across global forums, a man who leads the issues of cyber IP, like no one else, and he's somebody who's going to speak to us today on the important subject of cyber and IP, because Mahakumbh is a congregation of 40 crore people from the world, not only from Uttar Pradesh or India. It is a matter of prestige, and in the wake of the circumstances that face the global diaspora today, the 800 million people, 800 crore people who face this issue of cyber crisis, people like Pawan Duggal are going to guide us through the nuances, the ever-changing scenario of the cyberspace, the challenges they pose, not only to the people, but to the administration. It has to be completely in sync. Otherwise, post the event of 40 days, being held after 144 years, and with 40 crore people expected, this could turn out to be a real matter of embarrassment for the nation. Dr. Pawan Duggal, without wasting any further time because of your excruciating schedule and last-minute scheduling, and we are very, very obliged that you could squeeze out time, and you are going to bless the entire country, the world, with issues which is going to pay rich dividends not only in the next 2 months, but also is going to lay a roadmap for not only India, but the world to pursue in the case of such behemoth events, religious or otherwise. Over to you, Dr. Pawan Duggal.
Thank you for your kind introduction. Today, India is seeing a historical event happening in the form of the Mahakumbh. But this is the first time where we are actually seeing Kumbh representing a conclusion or a confluence of both spirituality and technology. The kind of technology and artificial intelligence that's currently being used during this current Mahakumbh is a singular example of India's thought leadership on how emerging technologies like artificial intelligence can be used for greater public good, for good governance, and for greater accountability and transparency in the governance processes. But while all this is happening, there is some concerns and challenges that are also emerging on the horizon. One of the biggest challenges here concerns the cyber security of technology, architecture, and the paradigm being used at the Mahakumbh. Look, when 40 crore people are congregating on the Mahakumbh over a period of time, it's but natural to expect that they will be extensively using technology. You'll be using artificial intelligence and various other technological paradigms which are being used by the administration for dissemination of information. So one big issue that will be important will be how to deal with the cyber security of these technological initiatives that the government has taken. There's not much clarity there, but given the fact the way India is moving, India is progressing, and given the spiritual relevance and the national consciousness of the nation of Mahakumbh, it's but natural that state and non-state actors are likely to go ahead and target the breaching of cybersecurity, of governance systems being used at this Mahakumbh. So not much information is available as to what the government has done in terms of protecting these Mahakumbh-related technological platforms, but they are potentially going to be a big target by state and non-state actors. Therefore, one of the key important priorities and challenges before the government will be to go ahead and protect and preserve the Mahakumbh related computer infrastructure. And for that, there are a number of options of can potentially declare all the Mahakumbh computer resources as a critical information infrastructure and even as a protected system. The reason for this is very simple. The moment you declare these Mahakumbh infrastructure, technological platforms as a protected system, it gets added protection under the IT Act. Because once you even try to access a protected system, that actually becomes a heinous offense, punishable with 10 years imprisonment and fine. So one is that we should come up with those kind of notifications. Number two is we must constantly keep on revisiting the logs of activities done using these technological paradigms and platforms for the purposes of finding whether there is unauthorized activity to help identify those challenges and to address them on the fly. Look, this Mahakumbh is a time where India is riding a running tiger. It does not have the ability to get off the tiger. It'll have to go ahead and calibrate its thought processes and approaches and strategies Mahakumbh while the Mahakumbh is going on. So I think the government is alive to these initiatives. The very fact that they have now deployed artificial intelligence of the nature and scale that's not yet been employed in any country, leave aside even in India, is also an example of a commitment of the government to start using emerging technologies like artificial intelligence for good governance. But I am expecting a lot of cybercrime to happen during Mahakumbh. The reason is very simple. The golden age of cybercrime has arrived. And what better way to hit people than to hit them during the time of them visiting the Mahakumbh? So more and more people are going to be targeted with these kinds of cyber criminal activities as we go forward during the period of the Mahakumbh. That being so, it will be very important that we must be able to take appropriate steps in this regard so as to provide effective remedies to persons who become victims of these cyber crimes during the Mahakumbh. But also done a very interesting time and a lot of new challenges awaiting simultaneously for the nation. Thanks.
You pointed out as to the infrastructure or the kind of modalities or the mechanisms that have been put into place. And there is not much information. Let me share a little bit of that. The ADG Cybercrime, Vinod Kumar Singh, has been entrusted with the job, and he has been given a volunteer team of almost 80 personnel to take care and sensitize and educate the people, unsuspecting people, unsuspecting religious, faith-abiding citizens and global tourists. Now, apart from that, the IIT Kanpur team and the IIT Allahabad team, IIT Allahabad, that is the Prayagraj team, they have been deployed. Now, it goes without saying, all this could turn out to be complete eyewash or ineffective because the public at large, with the kind of crowd which is expected, 40 crores in 40 days. How do you think, and what are the areas, not only of cybercrime, but also of counterfeit, also of copyrights, trademarks, huge amount of frauds taking place, currency issues. I mean, all this, you are an expert because I remember having listened to you at one of the conferences wherein you spoke at length on the issues of, counterfeit products, online issues, online shopping issues, and also issues with respect to currency counterfeits, because that is all, apart from PMLA, that is all now being considered as part of the cyber space. So, Dr. Dugal, how do you think the citizens, first of all, what are the areas that need to be protected? Recently, we had the fake website issue, which cropped up for hotel bookings a couple of days back in Allahabad, in Prayagraj. And it is not about Prayagraj, it is not about Allahabad. People from across the country are traveling to Prayagraj. State governments, each of them in this federal structure, owe a responsibility. But unfortunately, we don't have a cyber law in place even now. And the policy is still not come out. And secondly, we do not have, kind of synergy between the center state so that the Uttar Pradesh government's initiatives can be cascaded to the citizens who are traveling from Tamil Nadu to Prayagraj for this kind of a congregation. How do you suggest? What are your views on that, Dr.?
Well, very clearly, when I look at the Mahakumbh, I see it as a microcosm of India as a nation. This is a unique time frame. In this time frame, when 40 crore people are going to congregate at the Prayagraj, you suddenly find a very fertile one place where all kinds of criminal activities can be done with the abandon. So it's not just only about cybercrime, it's going to be about cyber fraud. When 40 crore people are coming to the Prayagraj, sorry, they require more facilities, boarding, lodging, and a variety of other governance access services. Now, the reality is that today most of the users are tech savvy. So they are using internet, they're using their mobile phones, smartphones. Even sadhus are also now using smartphones for the purposes of accessing how the crowd is moving at the Mahakumbh, thanks to the services being provided by the administration. So clearly, uh, clearly the scenario is that we will see not just massive quantums of cyber fraud happening. These could be in the form of hotel bookings. This could be in the form of fraudulent bookings of transportation. These could also be in the form of prasad, false offerings being given, and a variety of other purposes. But that's one microcosm. There are also going to be other exercises like people, because when they come here in Mahakumbh, they come in a mindset of devotion, of bhakti. And when they come in here in this mode of spirituality, the last thing they're expecting is that they are going to be potentially targeted by fraudulent or criminal activity. And this is the reason why these people who come there become very fertile targets of how they can be potentially targeted, whether it's a currency scam, whether it's a scam for contribution, for donations to Mahakumbh funds, which may actually not be the official funds, but actually funds created by cyber criminals. These could also be in the manner of providing unique customized services to pilgrims during Mahakumbh. So all these issues are going to be seen phenomenal. Now, I was looking at this AI platforms. Cyber criminals are now increasingly going to AI platforms for finding out new suggestions of how they can defraud users in the Mahakumbh. So already artificial intelligence is propping criminals to come up with new avatars, new mechanisms of perpetuating fraud, perpetuating criminal activity, and cyber crimes. So I expect that happen. I expect the issues pertaining to even currency exchange potentially leading to more fraud happening. So I don't have one golden principle to tell you this is how it's going to happen. I'm also not an astrologer, not a soothsayer. But all I can say is because 40 crore people are congregating during 40 periods at the Mahakumbh, 40-day period, this is a fantastic time. This is a golden time that any criminal could ask for. Why? Because all they need to do is to concentrate in that 40-day period and try to earn as much money as possible by defrauding as many bhaktalus or devotees or by just attacking them at the time when they are not expecting them to be attacked. So, therefore, I think the more focus will be on sensitizing the users or the pilgrims who are going to the Mahakumbh to say, hold on, you're going on a spiritual congregation once in 12 years, but please realize you cannot let your guards down. You will have to go ahead and be careful because there will be challenges at each point of time. Now, already the government has now come up with water police stations at Mahakumbh for people so that they don't even have to go to normal police station because these water police stations and water police booths are available at the Ganges. So while the government is doing all its level possible to go ahead and protect the pilgrims, the fact still remains is pilgrims also need to be sensitized about the impending dangers of them being made potential victims of criminal activities, cyber crimes. So it's more creation of awareness amongst the users that they need to be careful, adopt caution, care, due diligence, cybersecurity as part of your lives when you are specifically going to the Mahakumbh, and basically not become a victim of any of these kind of new fraudulent schemes that appear so authentic, so genuine that you would tend to believe them. Also, pilgrims have to be told, sorry, they don't need to be trusting offers during the Kumbh period, which are so authentic or so good to be true, because these so good to be true offers will not be true, but instead will be fishing nets for criminals to make the pilgrims victims of these kinds of newly emerging criminal activities. So all said and done, interesting times. Government is doing its remarkable bit. We have never seen the kind of deployment of technology at that level in such an extensive manner as we are now so seeing during the Mahakumbh. We are seeing massive arrangements on policing, so work is being done to the best extent possible, but I think users also need to be sensitized because they are the weak link in this entire ecosystem.
Gorakhpur, the Nepal border, Gorakhpur, the Nepal border, these are areas which are notoriously known or known notoriously for all kinds of counterfeit issues and currency counterfeit issues. Now, you are an expert not only from the online shopping perspective, but also somebody who knows the legal framework. We'll come to all that because Dr. Rajesh Pant has also joined us. Dr. Rajesh Pant, the former National Cybersecurity Coordinator for the country, a very, very important person. Now, it's a double whammy for us. It's like, we're going to leave no thread loose because Dr. Rajesh wants to take us through details of the cybercrime issues and the aspects which need to be taken care of by the citizens and the administration. And people like you can take us through the legal angle as well as through the counterfeit angle. What are your suggestions from the online shopping perspectives? Because you've been advising so many top MNCs like Amazon and all that. What should they do to ensure that the online shopping space, the e-commerce, the quick commerce and all that is not twisted for the purposes of cyber frauds?
Well, I think it's very clear that cybercrime has become now a pandemic. So we are now seeing a new phenomenon where cyber criminals are coming up with new customized approaches to come up with new mechanisms to defraud people. So the bottom line is we have to sensitize users. Please don't mix spirituality with actual world affairs. Why? Spirituality is at its own level. You're coming to the Kumbh, that's your faith. But more importantly, that does not mean that in this element of faith, you specifically just leave aside your due diligence, do not even adhere to the normal calls of common sense. So the bottom line is, let's, in this period of Mahakumbh, tell the users, please don't trust any information that you see on unofficial websites. If it's an official website, that information is bound to be more authentic, more correct, more reliable. But any other information that you're seeing on a non-governmental website, you should actually be treading with caution. You should not rely upon or information till such time you have independently verified the authenticity and veracity of the same. So whether you are searching for a hotel during Mahakumbh or whether you're searching for many other services, it's a great idea to go to the official website of the government and then to see what are they recommending or referring. And using those references, you can please go ahead and make your bookings. Don't be in a hurry to book hotels which are looking cheap or giving you a massive deal, because there is no such deals available. Please understand, from the hotel's perspective also, they want to maximize their profits. So there will be a lot of these cyber criminals who will be waiting to offer you these fraudulent kind of offers for hotel stays and stuff like that. So very interesting times ahead. But again, if we can actually empower the users, the people who are visiting the Mahakumbh, by sensitizing them, that could be a great starting point in order to ensure that they don't become victims of these kinds of...
With a volunteer and a force that is being deployed, as I just told you before, Dr. Pant joined, ADG Cybercrime, Uttar Pradesh, Binod Singh, is in charge, along with the IIT Kanpur graduates and the Triple IT Allahabad team. But that is not enough for the 40 crore people expected in the next 40 days on this 144-year-old phenomena, a behemoth exercise with which the country's prestige, honor, and reputation in the years to come by will be closely associated with 144 years, 40 crore visitors, 40 days. It is much more than the size of America. It is almost half the size of Europe. Now, from the online perspective, I'll again go back to my question. Are there any firewalls specifically designed or kind of professed or patronized by these Amazons and Flipkarts, because they have become synonymous with the shopping or the buying culture or the buying DNA of the customers of the citizens of this country? Is there any particular firewall strategy that they have in particular? Because this is going to be cascaded to the UP administration, Dr. Dougal.
Yeah, just a minute. Actually, the technological giants are doing their own bit in terms of beefing up their platforms by appropriate firewalls, by appropriate cybersecurity mechanisms. What these are is something that I'll not be able to tell because there's not much information available in the public domain. But these big tech giants have taken adequate precautions to ensure that during the time of Mahakumbh, their platforms don't get compromised, don't go down, or that they take added precautions to protect consumers or users who are coming to their platforms for enjoying the delivery of various services being provided there. So I think it's Mahakumbh is a festival of celebration, but it's also a festival of caution. And as far as the big tech companies are concerned, they are definitely more cautious. They're adopting more cybersecurity measures so that they can ensure the safety and security of their platforms and ensure that their users don't become victims of cybercrimes.
Dr. Dougal, before I get Dr. Pant on board, a couple of more small observations that I want to discuss with you. Pharmaceuticals space, apart from FMCG, apparels, pharmaceutical space is a very important space. 40 crore pilgrims, people with faith and people unsuspecting in nature, when they visit this particular beautiful congregation, pharmaceuticals will be taking center stage in terms of the medical requirements and exigencies. And that has been the talk of the town with respect to counterfeit issues or the duplicate issues. Any particular suggestions or any particular steps that you would suggest to the government?
Well, I will suggest that at least during the Mahakumbh, additional steps need to be taken by the government to control these spurious drugs that are going to be made available on drugstores at the Mahakumbh. Well, there are some governmental outlets. There, of course, you find medicine being given, and that's genuine. But we don't exactly know what other kind of spurious drugs are by medical stores, drugstores at the Prayagraj. So if people come here, you see, when you are going into Mahakumbh, some people will fall ill, some people will have fever, there'll be infections, there'll be respiratory problems. So all that will require medication. And not everybody may you go ahead and use the government facilities. So a lot of people may want to go and take the medicines from private shops. Therefore, the onus will have to be to make sure that these private shops and the chemist shops also do not dispense with spurious drugs so that they do not play with the health of the users as we go forward. I think it's a 360-degree viewpoint challenge that we are seeing. And the government is doing its Mahakumbh a phenomenon to remember. But then
artificial
challenges
intelligence,
are many.
You touched upon artificial intelligence. I have seen the flip side of it too much, for comfort. Even at the Nepal borders, which border with the West Bengal, Darjeeling, Mirik side, there are shops right at the border, and most of the borders that we are conversant with, they sell goods with using artificial intelligence, which can be mapped with the barcodes, with the original products also, which are imported through places like Dubai and other places. And this is going to be a real kind of a cakewalk for the agencies. And then we also have the issues of the Southeast Asian countries, pushing the phishing issues, pushing the cyber fraud issues, which Dr. Pant will throw a lot of light upon, the Golden Crescent, then the drugs issues, because As we all know, the culture with a few of the akhadas is also tilted towards the consumption of these kind of substances. All those things will come to, but artificial intelligence and the legal aspects, what are the way forward, or what is the legal remedies possible for the government and as for the citizens also, before I bring Dr. Pant on board?
Well, artificial intelligence is growing massively in its speed of adoption and usage, but that is now necessitating that India must now have a dedicated law on artificial intelligence. We don't have yet a law on artificial intelligence. The Information Technology Act 2000 is not a law on artificial intelligence and does not deal with the peculiar challenges thrown up by artificial intelligence. So, in order to regulate the misuse of artificial intelligence for criminal purposes and for terrorist purposes, we are seeing that even the provisions of the IT Act or the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 are not at all adequate. It's time for us to realize that along with cyber crimes, a new body of criminal activity has emerged called artificial intelligence crimes or cyber crimes as a service powered by artificial intelligence. The time has come that we must effectively cover these kinds of newly emerging technologies and their criminal ramification through specific legislations. That can happen if India takes the leap forward. Already a couple of nations across the world have come up with laws on AI, whether it's China, whether it's European Union. I think India needs to lead by example. And with now, there's a propensity of Indians to go see online, specifically by AI. The chances of them being foxed or their privacy being compromised, both in terms of data privacy and personal privacy, is also going to be very, very high. So the quicker we take the political thought leadership initiative of coming up with legal provisions and frameworks in the context of regulating the misuse of AI, the better it will be. And it will help the further propelling of the growth of AI as an ecosystem as far as India is concerned.
Finally, before I let you go, because you're in the airport, just landed in Delhi, the laws are lacking. BNS is new. Supreme Court has to step in. Bank said we don't have any particular framework. We need 6 more months. And finally, a couple of days back, the Supreme Court had to step in to say that the banks need to have technology that protects the cyber frauds issues and the phishing issues. So where is the citizen amidst all of this? How does he and where does he go?
Well, the citizen is the center point of all this technological universe, because the citizen is the ultimate consumer of all the technology services that the government, that the private sector, that the ecosystem stakeholders and intermediaries are providing. So while all this enclosure of eyes is the citizen also has a responsibility to inculcate an ability to distinguish what's real, genuine versus what's not. There's an onus upon citizen to incorporate cybersecurity as a way of life. There's onus upon them to not mortgage their common sense and be careful, cautious, and duly diligent when they are dealing with technology, because at every moment, at every point of time ahead in this technological paradigm, we find that there are challenges. There are cyber criminals waiting who are out to dupe the citizens, who want to breach the cyber security of the data and the computer systems of citizens, who want to ultimately cause wrongful loss, damage, or injury to citizens at large. I think that is the fundamental truth that citizens need to wake up to. They must take proactive steps to protect themselves, their data, their privacy. They only need to share information on a need-to-know basis. India has already now passed a new legislation called the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. Draft rules are currently being opened for public comment. I believe that while some steps have been taken for protecting consumers, because technology is constantly moving, because AI is constantly growing, new doors are opening up of how citizens can potentially be targeted for them to be made as victims of cyber crimes and new kinds of cyber frauds. So I think the time has come where the citizens have to be more empowered, they have to be more educated, they have to be made more cyber aware, and there has to be more capacity building amongst the citizens so that they can be in a much better, proficient position to go ahead and protect their interests in this technological ecosystem. Look, technology is now a center of our lives. We can't run away to the Himalayas. let's start coming up with good life hacks, good practices and procedures which can help to protect us as citizens in this technological era. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pawan Duggal. Wish you can stay with us for 10-15 minutes because Dr. Pant is going to be now taking us through his views on this, ultra relevant subject of cyber security, because he's an authority and acknowledged by the country, acknowledged by the highest office of the nation. Dr. Pant, thank you so much for squeezing out time. Jai Hind and Namaskar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar. Thanks.
Dr. Pant,
we
are in an era of artificial intelligence. We are in an era of digital arrests. We are in an era wherein cyber frauds are happening like never before. 2024 itself, to my knowledge, 3 lakh bank fraud cases were reported. 3 lakh cyber fraud cases in the banks were reported, with SBI recording the largest number. Now, 40 crore people expected in the next 40 days, 144-year-old kind of a religious festival happening now over the next 40 days. 40 crore people. Your views on cyber security for this hapless, unassuming, unsuspecting, completely faith-bound citizens of India and also the global diaspora, which all will be looking towards India as its reputation, honor, and prestige is at stake with respect to a kind of a volcano waiting to erupt. If anything goes wrong, it is going to be insurrectable, almost incorrigible. So, highest office on security, cyber security with us, Dr. Rajesh Pant, over to you.
Thank you, Amit, and thanks to Vision India Forum for having me here and for organizing this very important, as you said, and relevant aspect of cybersecurity in Mahakumbh. At the outset, let me wish all the viewers a very happy Makar Sankranti, Sharad Purnima, Lori, all the Indian festivals, and of course the biggest one of them, Mahakumbh, which is starting from tomorrow. You see, any major event, whether it is elections, whether it is the Olympics, where masses are involved, becomes like a perfect storm for cyber criminals. I mean, I can literally see their eyes gleaming with delight when they find that, so much is happening with such a large threat surface. Just now, Dr. Pawan also mentioned that a lot of digital technology is being used for this event. And the moment this technology is used, you see the threat surface, and I'm talking of the attack surface from the threat actor point of view, that expands. Exponentially, it has expanded. So I can assure you that the threat actors, all the criminal groups and the state-backed actors, they have already prepared for this, right? They have made their plans as to how and what they are going to do in terms of cyber attacking the Mahakumbh surface, right? So the way I will look at it is, firstly, what is likely to happen, what can happen in the cyber domain. Baki, there are other domains, physical domain, etc. What can happen in the cyber domain. And I would also then recommend some actions that can be taken. So let's start with what can happen. Now, the first response is that anything is possible, especially after 17th of September last year, when the Israelis made that famous pager attacks on Gaza, on the Hamas. You see, anything is possible. So if something is planned, it could be not only in IT, it could be, affecting the cyber physical systems also. That is the first reaction that I have. Specific issues that relate to cyber. First is the creation of fake portals. Already, I was surfing the net and I found that there is a particular portal where you can get passes if you, put your face details and particulars, and then a QR code is there, and with that QR code, you'll be allowed entry. And there was a similar portal, which was a fake portal. So it's very easy reading every day, just a small spelling mistake or a different script being used or what is called as side squatting. So whether it is fake portal, the main portal of the government, or for individual entries, and there are many of them. Every service today is having its own, plans for entry, or whether it is, as Dr. Pawan was saying, the hotels, the travel agents, the cabs, the flights, and all the packages that will be offered, attractive packages. So that is the first cyber vulnerability that I foresee, which will attract the masses, and it will either make them pay, or it will make them click on a link, and that link will contain the malware from where the credentials will be stored, and that is how the financial frauds take place. So fake portals, I would say, is the first one. Second thing that comes to my mind is the facial recognition. Stress is being used on facial recognition. But if you see the trailers that are coming out, and that song that are coming out, and the large number of the sadhus that are going to be there from the different akhadas, I do not know how the facial recognition is going to differentiate them when their face is covered with ashes, and they have come through a religious process. It's going to be a challenge. I have full faith. You mentioned ADG Cybercrime, Vinod Singh. You mentioned the IIT Kanpur team. They are all professionals. I have full faith in the system, but this facial recognition aspect is going to be a challenge. It will be easy identity and get through the system. That is the second. The third point is that you have a system in place. So you would be having a database, you would be having servers, there's a lot of data, there's a command and control station. So there could be a classic cyber attack, in terms of a DDoS attack, where your system is made to crash. A lot of data is put into a particular website and the system crashes. So you have to be prepared for system crashing, especially you mentioned the numbers, 44 people, entering. So if a system crashes, then what is the disaster recovery aspect that you've got? What will happen at that point of time when people are wanting to enter and your system is not working, right? That is also something that I foresee. Then, there will be a lot of these facilities like mobile charging stations, ATMs, because you have to cater. It's a district now. You have created a district. So public facilities will be there. Mobile charging stations, there's a very popular fraud where you put that cable for charging, then either it inserts the malware or it takes away your data, right? So you have to be aware of that. Similarly, in the ATMs, there are a number of frauds are there in the ATM.
For the sake of educating the common people who will also probably watch a few of them,
Yes.
Mobile charging has to be done only from fixed points, not from mobile points, because that is a classic case of malwares being put in and coming into your system and taking away your data, etc. So please continue, Dr. Pant.
Absolutely. You're right. And that also includes the free Wi-Fi. So I'm sure that the administration will create free Wi-Fi. And that is another point of entry where a lot of cyber frauds take place. Similarly, there will be a lot of ATMs. ATM frauds are of different, vectors. There's one fraud someone was telling me the other day where a very thin plastic sheet is put. And after that, you put your card when the client comes, and he goes through the process, and at the end of it, he gets an error message. So then you take out your card and go away. But then the moment
SS Mundra, the former deputy governor, had a wonderful solution to all these things. Even today, it seems to be very relevant now, much more. 1/3 of the ATMs of this country work as per the RBI data, as per the report that he framed. And I think that's the best way to probably stop the ATM frauds in this nation. We also have this OTP thing being replaced by different other technologies. So what are your views and suggestions to the banks in particular?
No, I'll come to the bank. Let me just finish the threat as to what is likely to happen. So another aspect is the use of drones. You see, drones are going to be used for surveillance, and the airspace management of drones is going to be a problem. Supposing there is someone with a malefic intent, and he intends to use a drone to create chaos. I mean, you are aware that drugs are being smuggled through drones. What happens if a chemical or an explosive is sent through a drone, and it creates, total chaos in the crowd? So how do you differentiate between friend and foe as far as the drones are concerned? So that's why I said, anything is possible in today's world. You have to be prepared and come to that. Then, of course, there's this aspect of fake news. fake news, deep fakes. Just now you were talking of AI. Again, messages can be passed to create chaos, to create this rush of traffic, etc. And they can guide you towards wrong areas and generally create mayhem and all that. So one has to be careful about that. Then, of course, in all the payment systems, UPI, and now that you mentioned the bank aspect also, we are aware as to how, with the use of virtual accounts and mule accounts, the cyber frauds are taking place. A lot of sales will be there, the QR codes will be there. So, and there's a dark web where the crypto is being used for, payment of the money and all. So, that is another area of concern. So finally, I mean, what we have to understand is it is not pure IT. You have to be prepared for protecting the cyber physical systems also. That is, in a nutshell, the broad canvas. I mean, as I said, my first this thing was anything can happen with what we have seen in 17 September. Now, I must also tell you what needs to be done. And that's very important, right? And the first thing that needs to be done is what is your governance structure for cybersecurity? So you have created a district, you have the police in place, there's the ADG cyber. What is the structure below him? Is the ISO? Is there a security operations center fully functional in terms of the integrated command and control center? What are the links of that SOC? Have you got the full aspect of the SOC, SIEMs, or the automated response, etc.? And who is doing the log monitoring? So one is the governance structure for cybersecurity. There has to be some sort of an organization in place for ensuring the cybersecurity of all the aspects that I mentioned, both for the IT part as well as for the operational technology part. Second is, do you have the processes in place? Have you written a cybersecurity policy for the Mahakumbh? Everything starts with the policy as to who will do what are the privileges given to various people. Second, do you have a cyber crisis management plan? Is the CCMP made? So all the aspects of, is there a continuous audit taking place? Vulnerability assessment and penetration testing, is somebody doing that? In fact, like I am telling you what can happen, you must have a red team in place. So red team is the one that is seeing from outside as to testing your system, trying to hack into your system and seeing whether it can be protected. And this has to be done for the continuous 40 days. So a governance structure, processes in place, the continuous red teaming is done, creation of a security operation center which is integrated with all the agencies, and ideally it should have a link upwards also to the I4C and in the MHA, the integrated cybercrime coordination center. So that should be there. Then the reporting. So a lot of faults will come up. 1930 is going to be functional. Have you put a call center especially in place? Because a large number of calls may come. So you cannot depend only on the existing state call center. A large number of, these helpline numbers and resources will have to be put. Then if there is a chaos, how do you manage crowd control? Do you have a system where you will broadcast, where you will use, the TV screens that are already there in your system to tell the crowd not to panic, go this way, go that way. So counter the influence operations. And then, of course, the classic cybersecurity of the protection of data, the applications, the endpoints, and the networks. So generally, these are the best practices for cybersecurity. So what I have said, Amit, to you is, and then what are the measures, the best practices to make this entire major event, of the century or other 2 centuries to be cyber safe? I think I'll take a pause here.
With respect to the developments or the unfortunate, unwanted and unsolicited developments in the cyber fraud space, especially with respect to financial transactions, what are your suggestions, specifically, or from a micro perspective, what are your suggestions to the banks? Because a couple of days back, the Supreme Court said the banks are responsible to have the, firewalls in place.
So this is a concept globally being, propagated in other nations also, that the individual cannot take the responsibility because of a process vulnerability of the financial system. So if you see US also, they've come out with some legislations on that. The second is that you tell me that there is a mule account being used. Now, you know what is a mule account? That means there is a poor person who's got a bank account, and these criminals come, they say, okay, we'll give you $1,000, but we'll keep taking out the money from your account. So after all that police investigation, etc., when you finally trace that person, he says, मुझे तो पता ही नहीं, मेरे को तो इन्होंने बोला था 1,000 रुपए देंगे, and they take the money. So you mean to say that that bank manager does not know that there is a mule account, and that this poor man cannot have lakhs and lakhs being taken out every day? So I mean, we may not say it openly, but we know that there is a implicit sort of a association, and people are getting caught also. We are seeing that people are getting caught. So the banks have to take some responsibility of citizens losing money, and the aim of the government is to protect the citizen. And the figures that you yourself mentioned as to thousands and thousands of crores that have been lost last year due to the fraud, and it is being targeted with widows and old people and pensioners. It is a very sad state of affairs. So the banks have to act fast, because you have to understand what the criminal is doing. See, if you understand what the criminal is doing in terms of transferring money from one bank to another using the virtual accounts, and then finally either he goes to a Bitcoin wallet where it is very difficult, or there's the ATM cash. He takes it out from the ATM. So there is a behavior analysis also involved in that. When you find odd happening, so definitely the banks have to take care of all these aspects and use AI for any abnormality. Today you have the power of AI. For any normal transaction, you should immediately block it there. Give the benefit of doubt to the citizen. That is what I feel.
Recently, I was studying a particular case wherein, and there are plethora of such case studies now available in the banking system, wherein we see that money trail issues are also, getting impacted, wherein bank accounts of unassuming people, unsuspecting people, recipients of money, they also get blocked. Now, and the banks, because they receive communication from the cybercrime police station or the division, they say that they are helpless, they have nothing to do in this particular case till the issue is resolved. And we know how the system works. So where does the common citizen go? Because 40 crore people, money trail issues, everybody's washing their hands off. What is the solution?
So I just spoke to you about the mule accounts, that at the end of it, the police, firstly, it's a very difficult investigation. You have to firstly trace the calls, then you find fraud SIMs. So there is an ecosystem which has to be tackled. It's not only the banks. You are probably aware that people have been caught, in various parts of the country with thousands of SIM cards. There's a person caught in the Northeast who had about 6,000 SIM cards. Who he had put them in a bucket. So where are these SIM cards coming from? So the telecom service providers are involved. And when I say telecom service providers, basically they are the franchisees. That's how because they don't sell the SIM cards. So SIM cards are involved. The crime is a law and order subject. So different state polices are involved. Then, of course, there's a judicial system that when you take
but how can the SIM cards be sold? Because there is the Aadhaar authentication involved.
No, come on. I mean, you are aware that every time you go and get a photocopy of Aadhaar, he has your photocopy, right? So then with your photograph and with your Aadhaar, he just puts his own photograph and he takes out a fake Aadhaar with your number on it, right? So,
but the biometric is bypassed.
So there are, if you see how the SIM cards are issued, it's a different discussion altogether. Because, as I said, the TSPs don't issue SIM card directly; they issue it through the franchisees. And if you go to one of these franchisees to renew your number, he says कि आप renew क्यों कर रहे हैं? मैं आपको नया दे देता हूँ SIM card. Because for renewal he gets 30 rupees for a new SIM card. It's 3 SIM cards activated, so he gives you a new SIM cards. So and then there is a concept of in corporates you can get 100 SIM cards. In business, if you want, for your corporate itself. So they take advantage of all the flaws in the system, and then they collect all these SIM cards. And then there's SIM card cloning and things like that. So that's a different discussion as to how do they produce so many SIM cards. And then these SIM cards. So what I'm saying is that firstly, uh, hats off to the police for tracing that guy, who's used the phone and then whose bank account. If they reach up to that place itself, I give a lot of credit to the police that they have reached that person from where the account has been able to catch him. Now that turns out to be a mule account. So it's a very difficult aspect. It's not only the banks, as I said, it's a whole system. And you would be knowing that the prosecution rate is in single digits. Now, why is that? Because after all this exercise that you've done, when you finally take the digital evidence, I mean, it is very easy to challenge that. What is the surety that this happened? What is the surety that it came out from this laptop? Supposing there's a cloud service involved, then it becomes very difficult. So the prosecution rate is in single digits. So the whole ecosystem has to be tackled. So
They don't even follow the rules. Like, for example, to my limited knowledge, the rules are to freeze an account only to the extent of the disputed. But the banks, they straight away freeze the complete account just based on
yeah,
the email that they receive. Even such basic rules are not followed.
yeah, no. I'm sure banks are following the rules, and if you see the latest guidelines, RBI has issued guidelines, SEBI has issued guidelines, and as I said, it's not only the banks' problem. So again, we have to tackle the entire ecosystem, including the judicial system. Now in the BNS, digital evidence has suddenly become very important. If you see the BNS, that they are saying that for every investigation, there has to be a forensic qualified investigator up to the rank of sub-inspector who will go to collect the evidence, and that will be acceptable. So things are changing, but in our country, everything is the sheer scale and size of the number of incidents makes it very difficult. But the process is slow, but the direction is there. That I can assure you.
How do you think that the current system that has been put into place can tackle the menace which is emanating, and it is not which is common knowledge now from the Southeast Asian economies, the Golden Crescent, especially the Golden Triangle, the Golden Triangle, and they're using these Indians who are being employed in those regions, and this kind of call center frauds are taking place. How do you think that can be tackled?
Yeah, you see, today every criminal group, whether it is the Yakuza of Japan or any of these Chinese groups or Italian mafia or the Mexican cartels, all of them, they have a very thriving cyber security, if I may say so, or a cyber crime syndicate, right? So in Southeast Asia also it is thriving, and they are coming out with new and new ways. So one of these ways is what you mentioned, that they say that they will get you a job in Indonesia or some country like that. And then once you go there, they take your passport and then make you work in a call center where they carry out cyber frauds. So this is something like, it's like kidnapping. And I really pity the persons who are, getting involved, because the stories that you hear that they get bashed up and all that. So this is unfortunately a technique that they have found, which is giving them, a lot of money. And in fact, in the open domain today, I was reading that North Korea earned about $1.5 billion from cybercrime, even after the sanctions were put on them. This is there in the public domain. I just read it today only. So whether it is Southeast Asia, whether it is some of the other, as I mentioned, these syndicates, they are, wherever there is money, they have a nose for, smelling that money, and they make ways and means as to how that money under wrong circumstances can come to them. Unfortunately, that is the underworld that is there, and we've not even spoken of the dark web. So one of the things you will find in Mahakumbh is that there is drug delivery being done in the dark web. And how do you tackle that? So that is another aspect, that somebody has to be monitoring the dark web. We have to see the chatter there, the murmurs there. And I'm sure the cybercrime cell that is there, somebody would be looking at that aspect also.
Crypto issues, because there's a lot of talk around registered authorized cryptocurrency dealers, and that is being misused by a lot of holders and a lot of people with money laundering kind of intentions. So how do you control? And then also we have that issue of online gaming. Recently received a huge, because this is going to play a big role. Online gaming is part and parcel of everybody's life today. People, use that as their favorite pastime on the mobile, on the move. And the Supreme Court has given them a breather with respect to the GST. I mean, how do you think that these things could be tackled, and also digital arrest?
Yeah, so you said a couple of things in, in the same breath. Online gaming also, digital arrest also. So online gaming, you see anything free.
Crypto issues
Yeah,
online and the digital arrest.
yeah. So crypto, if one understands the how the blockchain network works, and especially how the dark web transactions take place, there's a crypto exchange where the first conversion takes place, and then there are different nodes inside the dark web. So it's very difficult to trace the crypto transactions. And once it goes into a wallet, then it disappears, and that is how today. So tracing of cryptocurrency is very difficult. The only way is once again when it at the last node when it resurfaces and somebody wants to exchange it with the fiat currency. That is how some of these cases have been cracked. That suddenly you find this guy is either buying crypto or he's selling crypto. That is how we are able to catch some of these people. But otherwise, the tracing is very difficult. You are aware Bitcoin has reached $100,000 now. So, I mean, who's pushing that? You can make an estimate as to why that is being done. Second, as far as your digital arrest is concerned, this is again, a very, very disturbing aspect that educated people are falling for such crimes where crores and crores they are losing. And I have spoken to some of them. They say that हमें लगा कि they were hypnotized. I mean, they just could not control their actions, and they've been under digital arrest for 30, 40 days and lost crores of money. So again, this is a behavior aspect that these criminals have mastered, and I think there's some acting coaching also that they do, that the way they act like policemen and lawyers and all these enforcement directorate and law enforcement agencies. So again, when I mentioned how to tackle cyber security or cyber crime, the answer lies in people, process, technology, and cooperation. The people aspect is very important. Education and awareness of people is very important. And again, coming back to the Mahakumbh, I hope that these announcements keep taking place continuously, like what we are hearing when we make a call these days. Don't fall for it. Don't click. Don't give your OTP. Use multi-factor authentication. You don't have to give OTP for receiving money, etc. So this will have to be, continuously ingrained in the people to avoid the digital arrest. That is where it stands. Yeah.
You raised a very important point about the drones. People using, even the drones are being deployed despite the 7 security that has been deployed by the government, state government. Uh, Underwater drones is something which is also being planned. I mean, the kind of ramifications or the can break loose, if there is something which goes wrong from poisoning of the water or something like that, because this is something which I'm sure they must have thought about it. What are your suggestions? Because we don't have a
No,
drone policy.
No, as far as drones are concerned, it is part of the airspace management. That is what I said, that in that district that you have created, you have to have some sort of a policy and a process and a procedure in place for tracking the drones. And there are now anti-drone systems also. You have to be prepared for that. That supposing there is a drone which is meant for some mischief, then how will you tackle that drone? Will you jam it? Will you shoot it down? There's a net also that is thrown there. So you must have an anti-drone system in place. I'm sure that they have thought of it. And one word that you use, water poisoning, that brings to my mind what happened in Florida, what happened in Israel, that the water supply system was hacked, and then the chemical that was used to clean the water the level of that chemical started rising and rising, it became poisonous. So that water supply system, wherever there is automation, there has to be some security for ensuring that that technology is not misused. So this team of cybersecurity, as I mentioned, should not only focus on the IT part, they have to focus on wherever digital technology is being used, and the OT part and the cyber physical systems are also very important in today's day and age.
Yes, we have 2 more minutes before I let you go, sir. We had a case wherein messages were sent to even the parliamentarians from the Apple phone. I'm sure you're aware and you remember the case wherein a few parliamentarians had raised concerns with having received their phones being Apple phones being compromised. In such an age and situation, what is the responsibility and what are your views on such kind of unsolicited messages which can really cause a lot of panic and havoc in a congregation of 40 crore people?
So these days, you are getting messages from all, vendors and sellers and various people. So as long as you are connected on the network, you cannot stop a message from coming to you unless you have blocked it, right? Now, organizations like Airtel, they've done a good job that they are having a security operations center, and from there itself they are checking, and you get a message, it is a suspected spam call. So the first time, this sort of thing has started, and I hope all the other TSPs also make use of it. So that much they can do. But if a bot, we have not spoken of how bots are used in the network. These are these fake the bots that are used to send mass messages to people, using a small program. So to prevent that, I'm insisting education and awareness, because in today's digital age, cyber hygiene is today the most important thing. In fact, after COVID, I keep saying there are only two mantras for survival. One is personal hygiene, second is cyber hygiene. This has to be taught to people from school upwards, and especially the older people who are the digital immigrants to this world. They have to be, taught a little bit more. But there is no other option, that if you are finding the convenience of a mobile phone, you have to, it's like getting a license for a car. You can't, drive a car without a license. Similarly, you should not be able to handle a mobile phone unless you are digitally literate and your cyber hygiene is good. That has to be there.
Finally, one last question, sir. Last observation that you could probably throw a little more light on data, because a lot of data is going to be exchanged during this festival. Companies are going to put up kiosks. People are going to fill up forms, take data online. On the tablets, people are going to start, making sales pitches. How do you think data could be controlled? Because this is going to be a very, very critical issue, because all these things will, show up their ugly face in the days to come.
No, absolutely. A very important point that you made, and that is the essence of the act that was promulgated last year, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, as to how your personal data has to be protected. Because now under Article 21 of the Constitution, privacy has become a fundamental right, and it has become the duty of the government to ensure that your personal data remains private, right? So that is why the government has come out with the DPDP Act. And now on 3rd of January, the rules have come out, as Dr. Pawan Dugal was also saying, for public comments. And in the next couple of months, we will find the rules officially being notified. And then there's a period, of course, for the compliance. But coming back to your question, uh, all these people who are collecting data today must realize that at some point of time, they will be made responsible, and they will be called as data fiduciaries or data processors, and they will come under the DPDP Act, and where the fines go up to 250 crores. So it's just a matter of time when those sort of cases will start coming up. But as far as the Mahakumbh is concerned, there will have to be some sort of a policy that I mentioned earlier, as to what is the cyber security policy that you have created for Mahakumbh. What are your plans? How are you going to enforce it? Who is going to check it? Is there going to be a cyber audit? APTs, etc. A lot of work needs to be done continuously for the 40 days and possibly beyond.
Finally, deep fakes, you had pointed it out, but then, in a mass gathering with people, evolving in terms of uses of technology, and people are not clear about the rules and laws. You talked about Article 21. Then there is also Article 19, which is probably misused for, twisting and playing around with Article 21. If I take a video of somebody without his or her permission in a public place, what does the rule tell me? And can that not be distorted for deepfakes?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is what is happening. We are finding deep fakes of all, eminent personalities coming out. And what saddened me was that a few days back, all the major players like, Facebook, Meta and all, they announced that their content moderation that they used to do, they are going to be a bit lax about that and not going to be as strict in, checking the spam mails and all that. So that is a very dangerous trend. So deep fakes, of course, there are technologies of AI to spot deep fakes, but it all depends on the content providers. They have to have the systems
So
in place to immediately.
it all starts with that freedom issue in a public place. Can you picturize somebody with or without the permission?
So that is a legal question, whether it is an obscene video or whether it is something that you are taking
I'll
just
tell you
for.
very clearly, I'll not be beating around the bush and no holds barred. Call a spade a spade. The Naga Babas, become, a substance for or fodder in terms of the social media things because of the kind of the culture that they bring on the table. That kind of Naga Baba culture, can really be misused. These kind of things, how do you control them in an era wherein Article 19 is also there?
So that is, one of the spin-offs of social media, that immediately these memes are created, distorted videos are created, stories are made. I mean, there's a very hilarious situation these days about somebody having announced a 90-hour week and a couple of jokes coming out on that. So it's very difficult to control. As I said, the government has some rules in place. There is a committee which, if a complaint is made, immediately it tells the content provider to block it, bring it down. There is a system in place. But as I said, a lot of responsibility is there on the content providers, which unfortunately is not being seen on ground. So that is something that will have to be tackled.
In the same vein, to my layman's knowledge, WhatsApp calls, they have taken center stage. WhatsApp calls over the voice calls, the video calls, the numbers need not necessarily be as the same in the mobile which is using the WhatsApp call because of the concept, and people even from having cards from outside the country, even like from Pakistan. I mean, a person can have a Pakistan number on the WhatsApp, but the SIM is in Karachi. How do you think all this, and you can know the ramifications. You can understand if I receive a call from WhatsApp call from a Karachi number, as a layman, I will be shocked and I will listen to whatever they tell me because it's the big boss calling me from Karachi.
Yeah. So you get these numbers +92 and +1 +872. A lot of these calls are coming in, and again, TSP can block it if a large number of calls are coming. But again, it depends on the user. If you're seeing a number coming, in fact, any unknown number you should not receive. I mean, it is as simple as that. Why take a chance? Let him send a message to you that he's so and so, and then you can consider whether he has a point or not. Even these fake FedEx and all numbers that you get. So these days, it's it's a convenience also, and it's a threat also.
As a cyber expert, and after listening to you and after listening to people like you, I really feel like going back to the pre-mobile ages because life was much simpler, life was much easier. I'm sure Vivekananda, whose birthday today, Swami Vivekananda, we are all proudly celebrating as the Messiah of nationalism, somebody who taught us the way of life through spirituality. His famous saying was, that you using politics for social regeneration, of any kind, especially when it is, something which can finally lead to a myth situation. In reality, becomes distant, and the closer you want to be to spirituality, you need to ensure that politics is completely non-partisan. Politics is without personal vested interest. Only then a common person, common citizen of a country as plural, as diverse as India, despite all the firewalls that we have, despite all the good intentions that we have, as Mr. Modi said, I have all the good intentions, but I do make mistakes. The question here is, what is the dividing line and who decides what's a mistake and what's a malified intent? Now, that is up to the individual's conscience to decide. We can only hope that with evolution of time and with the laws coming into place, the system ensures that the hapless citizens of a populated country like India do not fall prey to cyber attacks and counterfeits, because a common man with a limited amount of saving, who has got no real kind of respite from the legal framework or the judicial machinery, the only way he is left to is himself. So with all the thoughts behind this kind of situation, let me thank you, Dr. Rajesh Pant. You were as candid and as open to us as possible. I am sure your discussion today, if people watch it, with sincerity, the crux of the entire, gospel that you spell out is you are responsible for your own security. Ultimately, the systems and the technology will keep evolving. You need to be, you need to be alert. You need to be assured of your own responsibilities and control your kind of greed to try and become or try and do one-upmanship over others, because that is where technology is going to play a part and is going to take advantage of your innocence. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh Pant. It was a pleasure inviting you. Look forward to learning from you on various other issues. Jai Hind, Namaskar.
Thank you, Jain.
Jai Hind,
Namaskar.
Namaskar.